If you'd asked anyone outside my family, they'd say the Colemans were picture perfect. Successful parents. 2 kids. A suburban house with seasonal wreaths and a matching golden retriever. But if you looked close, really close, you'd notice the cracks. Or more specifically, the gap between my sister Emily and me. She was the golden one. Owner of a boutique fashion line our parents practically financed. Every post of hers was liked, shared, celebrated. Me? I was the kid who still hasn't figured it out. As my dad liked to put it. Never mind the fact that I'd been grinding for 3 years at a tech startup, building back-end infrastructure with barely enough coffee or sleep. If it wasn't Instagrammable, it didn't count. Growing up, I used to think the indifference would fade if I just worked harder. Graduated early. Moved out. Landed a real job. But nothing ever changed. Holidays still meant being asked why I wasn't more like Emily. Family dinners always ended with subtle digs about my minimalist lifestyle, their polite way of saying broke. Then came the dinner invite. Out of nowhere, I get a text from Mom. "We're celebrating some family wins this week. Join us for dinner at Bellarive. 7 p.m. Don't be late." Smiling face with smiling eyes. Bellarive. The kind of place where the cheapest appetizer costs more than my monthly grocery bill. A steakhouse so pretentious they had a valet for the valet. I blinked at the text for a solid minute, half convinced it was meant for someone else. We hadn't done a family celebration in years, not unless Emily was involved. But curiosity beat skepticism. Maybe, just maybe, they were turning a page. I'd recently been promoted. My project had finally gotten traction. Maybe they actually wanted to celebrate me for once. So I showed up. Suit pressed. Hair clean. Trying not to sweat through my shirt as I handed my keys to a guy who could smell fear. Inside, everything gleamed. Gold accents. Dim lighting. Waiters in suits sharper than mine. And there they were, Mom, Dad, and Emily, already seated with a bottle of wine open and appetizers on the way. They looked pleased. "We were just talking about you," Mom said, waving me over like I hadn't been their afterthought for years. I sat guarded but hopeful. "You look good, son," Dad added. Sharp. They poured me wine. Ordered more food. Toasted to family wins and leveling up. Even Emily chimed in. "Look at you, all grown up." The weirdest part? They asked about my job. Listened, or at least pretended to. Laughed when I made a joke about late-night bug fixes. For the first time in forever, I started to relax. I let myself believe it. Maybe this was the moment. Maybe they'd stop seeing me as the disappointment. Maybe we were finally starting fresh. Then my dad looked at his phone, winced, and said, "Ugh, Emily's meeting ran long. We should step outside for a second, take a call." Emily stood up too. "BRB," she said, slinging her clutch over her shoulder like this was some casual thing. Mom followed. "Don't touch the dessert menu without us." I smiled, sipped my wine, and waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. At first, I thought maybe they got caught up talking to someone. Or had to move the car. I even checked my phone to see if I missed a message. Nothing. Waiter came back with the bill. Set it down with a quiet, "Whenever you're ready, sir." I blinked. Peeked at the number. $10,472.80. My stomach flipped. I reached for my phone. That's when the message came in. From Dad. "Let's see how he finds his way to pay, failure." Followed by another one from Emily. "Hope you've got a backup plan, genius nail polish." I just stared. Mouth dry. Hands shaking. For a few seconds I didn't move. Just stared at the screen, willing the text to be a joke. Some messed up attempt at humor. But then another one came through, from Mom this time. "Consider this a test. Sink or swim, right?" Smiling face with smiling eyes. The smiley made me nauseous. The waiter hovered politely. "Will that be one card or?" I looked up, mouth opening, but no sound came out. My throat was dry. Like I'd swallowed a handful of dust and bad decisions. I forced a laugh, brittle, awkward. "Sorry, can you give me a second?" I think my family stepped out with my wallet. He nodded, disappearing like a man who'd seen worse. Maybe he had. Maybe not a $10,000 dinner dish, though. The dining room blurred around me. Laughter at other tables. A soft clink of wine glasses. Someone was getting engaged at the back booth, surrounded by cheers. And here I was, sitting alone in front of a feast I didn't even touch. Lamb chops, wagyu steaks, oysters, imported wine, all under my name now. A few people noticed. Side glances. Raised brows. I tried calling my dad. Straight to voicemail. Same with Mom. Emily? Blocked me before the second ring. It hit me like a punch. They planned this. Not just the dinner. The menu, the timing, the fake warmth. It was a setup. A performance, choreographed and cruel. A lesson. They'd probably call it if pressed. I sat there another 10 minutes before I pulled out my phone and made a call I hadn't made in years. Hello? Said a familiar voice, groggy with jet lag and too many late nights. Jason, I said. It's me. I need a favor. Jason was more than a friend. He was my team lead. Mentor. The guy who gave me a shot when I was working out of my car. I hadn't told him much about my family, just enough to joke about needing a new one. He didn't even hesitate. Where are you? Belariv. My family just stuck me with a $10,000 bill. Silence. Then a low whistle. That's psychotic. Yeah, I said. It is. He asked for the name on the check, the exact amount. Told me to hang tight. Said he'd wire it from our business fund and we could treat it like a short-term personal loan. No interest. No lectures. I didn't cry. Not then. But I could have. 10 minutes later, the manager came out. We've confirmed payment, he said, overly polite. But I saw it, the judgment behind the eyes. That mixture of pity and disbelief. Would you like a receipt? I shook my head. Just wanted to leave. As I stood, the waiter caught up to me near the exit. He pressed something into my hand. A napkin, folded tight. Inside, a handwritten note. I heard what happened. You handled that with dignity. They don't deserve you. No name. Just that. And for some reason, that was what broke me. Outside, the air felt colder. Sharper. The night buzzed with distant traffic and the faint laughter of people with less cruel families. I sat in my car for almost half an hour. Didn't start it. Just stared at the steering wheel, replaying the night like a bad home movie. Then came the final message. From my dad. This is what the real world looks like. You keep saying you're grown, now you've paid like one. Maybe now you'll grow up. And Mom, right behind it. Don't be so dramatic. We're just trying to push you toward success. Consider it motivational parenting. I blocked them. All of them. No goodbye. No rage. No clever last word. I just sat there in the dark, surrounded by the scent of rich food and cheap cruelty. And for the first time in my life, I stopped hoping they'd change. They didn't deserve a seat at any table I'd ever built. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove aimlessly for almost 2 hours, past gas stations that smelled like burned coffee, quiet neighborhoods lit by flickering porch lights, and empty intersections where even the red lights felt optional. My apartment felt too quiet, too full of questions I wasn't ready to answer. Eventually, I parked outside my office building. It was well past midnight, but the security lights were still on inside. I had a key fob. No one would care. I let myself in and walked to my desk, the only sound the soft hum of our servers from the glass-walled room at the back. I didn't sit. Just stood there for a while, staring at my monitor, still on from earlier. The same line of code blinking on screen. Waiting. Kind of like me. I wasn't angry. Not in the loud, dramatic way people expect. I didn't want to scream or throw anything. There was no epic meltdown. Just stillness. That eerie quiet that only happens when something inside you breaks and nothing rushes in to replace it. I opened a blank document. And I started writing. Not to them. Not even for anyone else. Just the truth. The sequence of events. The messages. The receipt. The unhinged dinner. The fact that they'd blocked me before dessert. I dumped everything into the file, cold and clinical. Screenshots, text logs, timestamps. I added my own voice memos from that night. Turns out I'd accidentally recorded most of dinner. My phone had been sitting in my jacket pocket. Mike still lived from a call I never properly ended. I organized everything into folders. Labeled it simply, Dinner Incident, July 5th. Not because I planned to go public. Not yet. But because I wanted it all documented. I'd spent a lifetime being told I was too sensitive, misremembering, making a big deal out of nothing. Not this time. By sunrise, I was still at my desk, bleary-eyed, exhausted, but clearer than I'd been in years. I shut my laptop, left a sticky note for the cleaner to ignore my coffee mug, and walked out. That day, I didn't respond to anyone. Not the group chat. Not the, "Hey man, you okay?" message from Emily's ex, who apparently saw her post about the dinner and said it gave him secondhand trauma. I just worked. And something weird happened. I crushed it. I fixed a bug that had been haunting our back-end team for a month. Helped a junior dev finally understand versioning. And when our founder, Victor, stopped by to review a prototype I'd been building solo, he said, This is solid. You're running ahead of the curve." Later that afternoon, Jason, my team lead, pulled me into a call. "We're about to close the defense contract," he said. "It's going to change everything. Bigger clients, longer hours, real money. We'll need someone to step up." "Okay," I said cautiously. "Not just code-wise," he continued. "Operations. Strategy. Tech decisions. We want you. CTO." I just blinked at him. "Wait, you're serious?" Jason smiled. "You've been serious since day one. We're just catching up." The promotion came with equity, a raise, and something that felt even more powerful than money. Trust. That night, I walked home instead of driving. Took the long way through the city. The lights from the high-rises glowed against the glass. People spilled out of bars, drunk and laughing. No one knew what had happened to me at Belarive. No one would guess I'd nearly been financially flattened by my own family 3 nights earlier. But I wasn't flattened. I was still standing. And the version of me that used to hope they'd change? The one who chased their approval like a dog chasing a moving car? He was gone. They wanted me to prove I could survive without their help. Fine. Now they'd get to see exactly what I looked like when I didn't need them at all. I was halfway through debugging a report export bug when the first voicemail came in. It was my mom. Her voice, usually sharp and clipped like a school principal, was shaky. "Sweetheart, we just heard something from Aunt Carla about a video? Something with the restaurant? Look, I know you're upset, but can we please just talk?" I hadn't posted anything. But someone had. Curious, I checked Twitter. Typed in Belarive, and sorted by recent. There it was. A tweet, just 4 hours old, already climbing past 60,000 likes. "Just witnessed a man get stuck with a $10,000 bill by his own family. They dipped mid-dinner and sent him a text calling him a failure. This is abuse, not a prank. Hashtag Belarive, hashtag family isn't always family." Below that? A 15-second clip from a waiter's POV. Me, alone at the table. A check being handed over. My face falling. The camera discreet, shaky, but clear enough. You could hear someone whisper, "I think they really left him." Another clip, taken just outside, a valet shaking his head and muttering, "First time I've ever seen someone dine and ditch their own kid." I stared at the screen. I hadn't asked for this. But someone, a stranger, maybe a staff member, had seen it for what it was. And suddenly, the story wasn't mine to hide anymore. I refreshed the tweet. 91,000 likes. The replies? Brutal. "Imagine treating your kid like this and expecting a Mother's Day card. Please tell me this man is okay. Parents like this shouldn't be allowed within 50 feet of a group chat." By lunch, it hit TikTok. A content creator broke it down like a true crime story, overlaying the clips with screenshots of similar toxic parent behavior, citing emotional weaponization and public shame as control. And then the journalists found it. BuzzFeed, Medium think pieces. One article titled, "The $10,000 Lesson When Parents Weaponize Wealth to Humiliate." I didn't even know how to feel. I hadn't asked for any of this. I told no one but Jason and my team. But now the story had legs. And it was sprinting. By 3 p.m., I had 3 voicemails from my mom, 2 from my dad, a WhatsApp message from Emily that just said, "You need to take this down. Right now." I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't said a word publicly. But in their minds I was the villain, just for existing in the narrative they created. I didn't reply. That night, I ordered takeout and sat in my apartment, watching it all unfold like I wasn't even the main character. A girl on TikTok made a remix of the waiter video to Billie Eilish. A stitched clip showed my dad's text overlaid with, "Let's see how he finds his way to pay failure." Every comment was fire. And they were just getting started. Around 10 p.m., I got a call. It was my uncle, Mom's younger brother. We hadn't spoken in over a year. "I just want to say," he started, "I always knew they were tough. But this?" He sighed. "I'm so sorry, man." I didn't know what to say. "They're panicking," he added. "Not because they feel bad. Because they're embarrassed." Figures. Emily's boutique lost 2 sponsors this morning. Some influencer page posted screenshots of her text. Even your dad's firm pulled his name from their public client list. I just nodded. Not with joy. Not with revenge. Just tiredness. "This whole thing," I said quietly. "It never had to happen." He exhaled. "I know. They pushed you too far." The next morning, I woke up to 35 missed calls. 5 unread messages. From Emily. "You better fix this before it ruins us all." From Mom. "We love you. Please call. You're our son. We can't lose you." From Dad. "If you don't answer, we'll come find you in person." That one made me block his number. Funny how fast "sink or swim" turns into "please throw us a life vest." I put my phone face down, poured a fresh cup of coffee, and opened my laptop. Work called. And I had a company to help build. I didn't post anything. Not a single tweet. Not a TikTok. Not even a moody Instagram story with a cryptic quote and a blurry skyline. But the story didn't need my voice. It already had one. By Monday morning, the Bellareve incident had a name. People were calling it hashtag the 10K tab. Others, Dinnergate. Reddit threads popped up dissecting every frame of the video. Strangers were sleuthing Emily's boutique, screenshotting her old tweets calling people lazy for not starting their own businesses. One Redditor dug up an archived interview where she said, "I built everything I have from scratch. No help, just grit." The comments were ruthless. "Guess grit comes with a platinum credit card and emotionally unavailable parents." I kept refreshing, not out of obsession, but because I couldn't believe how fast the tide turned. People didn't just sympathize. They recognized me. Their versions of me. People writing, "My dad once left me at a mall to teach me independence. My mom charged me rent while paying for my brother's law school. Watching this video felt like therapy I didn't know I needed." There was something universal about it. The quiet kid left holding the check, literally or emotionally, while everyone else got dessert. And while my family panicked, I got promoted again. Not officially. But when Kareem, our senior ops guy, had to fly out for a week, Victor handed the logistics planning to me. "You already do half the work," he said. "Might as well get credit." At this point, I had my own intern. An intern. Me. The guy who once slept in his car and snuck into hotel lobbies to steal Wi-Fi. Meanwhile, Emily's boutique? Cancelled. Their Instagram comments had to be turned off after someone stitched a video of her grateful for hard lessons. Caption with the dinner bill and her quote about how broke people just need to want it more. It was carnage. But here's the thing. I didn't feel smug. I didn't want them ruined. I just wanted space. Peace. A life that wasn't constantly under emotional debt collection from people who never paid in. That didn't stop them from trying to spin it. I got an email from my mom's PR contact. Yes, she had one, asking if I'd be open to a healing podcast episode. The pitch was surreal. A powerful reunion between a misunderstood family and their ambitious son, a story of growth, missteps, and redemption. I didn't respond. Next, my dad. A typed letter delivered to my apartment. We understand now that our actions were taken out of context. We never meant to humiliate you. Family is about forgiveness, not public crucifixion. We ask that you publicly clarify the situation so that all parties may heal. It was the most corporate apology I'd ever seen. No. Sorry. Just legal phrases wrapped in emotional hostage notes. They weren't sorry they hurt me. They were sorry people saw it. Emily, of course, went full spin. She made a post about toxic internet culture, claiming she was targeted and villainized for a situation that was taken out of context. Someone in the comments posted the full receipt image. $10,472.80. No context needed. Later that week, BuzzFeed emailed me. They wanted to run a "Where is he now?" profile. I declined. Not because I wasn't flattered, I was, but because I didn't want to become a trauma mascot. I wasn't the guy left at the table. Not anymore. I was the guy standing up. And people were starting to notice. One day, after a long client call, Jason stopped by my desk and asked, "You ever think about speaking?" I blinked. Publicly? Yeah. Like real talk. Conferences. Startup panels. You've got a story. And you're good at making people feel like they're not crazy for caring. That stuck with me. All my life, I'd been made to feel like I was overreacting. Sensitive. Ungrateful. Now, people were thanking me for doing nothing more than surviving out loud. That weekend, I walked past Bellerive. Same valet. Same awning. Different version of me. The hostess smiled at me like she knew who I was, or at least knew not to mess with someone who'd been to war with a wine list and lived to tell the tale. I didn't go in. Just smiled to myself, turned the corner, and kept walking. The dinner may have ended. But the story? That was just starting to be mine. The call came at 7:42 a.m. on a Saturday. Unknown number. I almost let it ring out, but something told me to answer. "Michael," my mom said. Just that, my name, wrapped in too much breath and not enough apology. I didn't say anything. We wanted to talk. Without press. Without judgment. Just us. "You mean, without witnesses?" I said. A pause. Then, "Please don't be like this." That line? The classic card from their deck. I used to fold when I heard it. Used to backpedal, apologize for being hurt like it was something contagious. Not anymore. "I'm not being like anything," I replied. "You're just not used to me not chasing." She sighed. "Your father's upset. He usually is. This isn't fair, Michael. The way it all exploded online, it's affecting our lives. Your sister. She brought it on herself. I just thought," she said, voice trembling, "maybe we could all sit down. Have dinner. Somewhere quiet." I almost laughed. "You want another dinner?" I said. "Should I bring my own wallet this time?" The silence was sharp. "We made a mistake," she said finally. That was as close to an apology as I was going to get. And it wasn't nearly enough. I ended the call. Didn't yell. Didn't gloat. Just tapped and turned my phone face down. That same day, a package showed up at my building. No note. Just a branded wine box from one of the vineyard labels they used to brag about. Inside was a bottle I'd once admired, 10 years ago, during a family vacation I wasn't invited on. They remembered that detail, but forgot how to say sorry. The fallout was no longer subtle. Emily's boutique got dropped by 2 major distributors. She posted a video sobbing in her Range Rover about internet toxicity and how one moment shouldn't define a lifetime of hard work. The comments were not kind. My dad, once the proud face of a real estate investment group, was transitioned to an advisory role. Translation: they didn't want to be associated with a man who publicly humiliated his own son and then tried to gaslight the internet into thinking it was a prank. Meanwhile, I was building. Our startup had closed the government deal. I'd hired 2 more engineers. I signed a lease on a better apartment, not flashy, just solid. A view of the city. Natural light. Peace. The only noise came from the occasional news mention. That week, I got a message from the restaurant manager at Bellarive. We've officially banned your parents from the property. Just thought you should know. If you ever want a table on the house. I didn't take the offer. But I appreciated the sentiment. That night, I posted a single sentence to my LinkedIn. Turns out silence is the most powerful reply. The post went viral. Dozens of execs reached out. People wanted me to speak, mentor, consult. One CEO even offered to fly me out for a leadership seminar. Said he'd never seen someone handle public pressure with such clean composure. Funny. All I did was nothing. Let the truth do the talking. A few days later, my sister texted me. I'm sorry. For the record. I didn't think it would blow up like this. I stared at the message. Not because I believed her. But because for once, it sounded human. I didn't reply. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because here's the truth. Sometimes peace isn't reconciliation. Sometimes peace is just distance. I didn't think silence would change anything. But it did. Because silence, real silence, terrifies people who are used to controlling the narrative. And now that they couldn't bait me into a scene, into some dramatic blowout they could frame as emotional, they were stuck listening to the absence of my reaction. It echoed louder than anything I'd ever said. That week, I barely checked my phone. I was too busy building. We finalized our infrastructure migration. Prepped for a board pitch. The government contract Jason had teased was now inked, signed, and wired. Our Slack thread was exploding with champagne emojis. I stayed late to train new hires. One of them, a quiet, nervous guy named Luca, stopped by my desk and mumbled, "Hey, I read your story. You didn't say much, but it helped." He looked embarrassed after saying it, like he'd crossed a line. But I just nodded. Because I got it. That was the point, after all. They left me alone at a table once. And now? People were pulling up chairs to mine. That Friday, I signed a lease for a new apartment. Nothing flashy. Not the high-rise penthouse Instagram influencers fawn over. Just a top-floor walk-up with big windows, a gas stove, and a patio big enough to host friends. It felt earned. No parental cosigner. No strings. No weight on my chest every time I turned the key. A few days later, I stopped by Bellarive. Not to eat. Just to look. I stood across the street, coffee in hand, watching valet guys shuffle around black Escalades and wine-drunk executives in overpriced loafers. The same gold-lettered sign gleamed above the doors, but the weight I used to feel in my stomach? Gone. The hostess glanced my way through the glass. She gave a small nod, almost like she recognized me. Or maybe just recognized someone who no longer flinched. Funny how much changes in a few weeks. I didn't go in. Just turned and walked past. That night, I cooked myself dinner. Roast chicken, rosemary potatoes, glass of cheap red wine. Jazz humming from a cracked Bluetooth speaker. I plated it without thinking, no need for Instagram, no one to impress. Just me. And the quiet. Halfway through the meal, I got another voicemail from my dad. Short. Tight. Michael. I don't know what else to say. Your mother and I didn't expect things to go this way. We didn't mean to lose you. Just call me. No apology. No ownership. Just regret flavored like guilt. And I think that's when I finally felt free. Because I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were just sorry they couldn't control the ending. I deleted the voicemail. No hesitation. Later that weekend, I took Luca and 2 other new devs to lunch. Casual ramen spot, no frills. We talked about debugging nightmares and imposter syndrome. At one point, he looked around the table and said, "This is the kind of team I always wanted to be part of." I smiled. That used to be me, desperate for someone to make room for me. Desperate for a seat that didn't come with a punchline. Now I was building the table. That night, I posted a simple line to my feed. They left me at the table. So I built my own. No context. But somehow, everyone knew what it meant. I didn't expect anyone to show up with closure gift wrapped. But I didn't expect her to knock either. Monday night. Late. I was still in joggers, reheating leftover risotto, when there was a soft knock on the door. Not banging. Not frantic. Just soft. I opened it halfway. There she was. My mom. No pearls. No smug smile. Just a plain sweater, makeup-free, hair pulled back like she didn't want to be recognized by the version of me she used to ignore. "I'm not here to argue," she said quickly. "I just wanted to see you." I didn't invite her in. But I didn't close the door either. She pulled something from her bag, a plain manila envelope. "I know we messed up," she said. "And I'm not here to make it worse. It's not hush money. It's not leverage. It's just what we owe." I raised an eyebrow. "You owe me nothing." "No," she said, voice trembling. "We owe you everything." She handed me the envelope. I didn't open it. She didn't expect me to. Then she glanced past me, into the apartment, the photos on the wall, the whiteboard of startup tasks, the new coffee maker I'd splurged on last week. "You did this," she whispered. Not bitter. Not impressed. Just realizing. "I used to think success looked like what Emily had," she continued. "Now I realize it looks like this." I didn't say anything. I wasn't ready to hand her a redemption arc. But I appreciated the silence. Eventually, she stepped back. "If you ever want to talk," she said, trailing off, "I'll think about it." That was all I gave her. And she nodded. As if that was more than she thought she'd get. She turned, walked down the hall, and was gone. I closed the door and left the envelope on the counter. Didn't touch it. Instead, I poured a drink. Opened the balcony door. Let the city hum roll in. The lights below weren't judging or demanding or reminding me of everything I wasn't. They just were. I took a sip. Then I lit a candle, not for the aesthetic, but because I could. No meaning. No message. Just a quiet middle finger to the version of me that once believed peace had to be earned through obedience. I set the table. 1 plate. Roast chicken. Risotto. Glass of wine. The opposite of Bellarive. No audience. No games. Just dinner. Just mine.